Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be filming a first impressions for the Smashbox Studio Skin 15 Hour Wear Foundation. I actually only found out about this foundation last week. I saw someone talk about it on their YouTube channel and it just looked amazing, so I thought I'd give it a go for myself. I've been waiting to try this out for a few days now. I bought it last week and I haven't tried it out just yet because I knew I wanted to film a first impressions and I haven't had the chance to film it, so I'm so glad I'm finally getting the chance to film this so that I can start wearing it. So if you'd like to know what I think of the Smashbox Studio Skin 15 Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation, then please keep watching. As you can see, I don't have any makeup on at the minute. I'm just going to get a bit closer to the camera so you guys can see my skin up close. I have a few blemishes on my face. My skin is quite red in parts and I have quite large pores around my nose. I do wear fake tan, so that's why there's a difference in colour between my face and the rest of me. Hopefully my foundation will match. I did actually go into my local Boots and I spoke to the woman on the Smashbox counter. She tested a bit of the foundation on my face and she recommended the shade 2.2. So I took her advice and I bought that, and she put a bit on my face when I was in store. In the shop, like under shop lighting, it looked fine, it looked to match, but when I got outside and I saw myself in natural daylight, I was just like, oh my god, this is so dark and so orange. Like, it wasn't even a tan colour, it was genuinely orange. So I was like, oh my god, I can't wear this. So I took it back and I swapped it for the shade 2.1, which was the next shade down. So I haven't actually tested this colour on me. I'm hoping that it'll be alright. As long as it's not orange, I should be fine. Although this is a hydrating foundation, it is also oil free, so I'm really interested to see how it works on my skin. So on the back of the box, this foundation claims to be medium to full buildable coverage, oil free, controls oil all day, sweat, humidity and exercise resistant, colour true and transfer resistant, demi matte finish. Okay, so it says it's oil free and controls oil all day. I've never heard of a foundation that is not only oil free but actually controls oil, so I'm really interested to see if it actually does control oil. If this works, this could literally be my new holy grail foundation. So this is what the foundation looks like. It comes in a glass bottle and also has a matte black lid, which is quite a nice finish. It has a removable lid and it comes with a pump. I've used the MAC Pseudo Fix foundation before and I had to buy a pump separately. I mean, you're spending all that money on the product in the first place, why not just have a pump that comes with it? It makes it so much easier. So that is a really good feature of this foundation, that it comes with a pump. I have already applied my moisturiser and my primer. For moisturiser, I use the Clinique Dramatically Different Moisturising Gel. This is for combination oily to oily skin, which is obviously what I have, and this is also oil free. I think this works really well under makeup as a base for someone with oily skin. And for primer, I use the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Water, which you may have seen in my March favourites. I just spritz this all over my face to create a nice even base to apply my makeup. And I also use a small amount of the Benefit Professional Primer just around my nose area, along here, and also on my chin as well. So I've just put my hair up so it's out of the way of my face before I apply my foundation. I'm just going to shake it first because it is a liquid foundation and it has been sat on my desk for the last few days. I did apply the moisturiser and the primer all over my face, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply half of the foundation with a beauty blender on one side and the other half with a foundation brush, just to see if there's any difference between the two forms of application. So I'm going to start with a foundation brush. This is the Spectrum Collections A02 Angled Foundation Brush. So I'm just going to apply a bit to the back of my hand. Quite a lot actually came out there. This is what it looks like on the back of my hand. I'm hoping that this is going to be the right shade for me. As you can see, it is quite runny. It is starting to run down my hand quite quickly, so I'm going to have to work quite quick with this product. I'm doing this looking at my camera. I think I'm probably going to have to get a mirror. There is a mirror behind the camera, so I'm just going to be looking into that while I apply this because I can't do it with the camera. So that was about 2 pumps and that has gone already. So I am going to have to apply another pump on my forehead. Ooh, it comes out quite quickly. The colour I'm actually quite impressed with. I wasn't too sure if it was going to be too light, just dropping down a shade, but actually it seems to work quite well with my tan, which is nice. So with about 3 pumps for that side of the face, as you can see, it's quite medium coverage. Like it says, I wouldn't say it's full coverage. It is buildable though, so I am going to go in with another layer. So I'm going to try and build it up a bit. I'm hoping that this doesn't go cakey, because that is trouble that I have with quite a lot of foundations. If I apply more than one layer, it can go quite cakey on my skin. I still have a bit left for the top, which is good. Just remember to blend it out to the hairline as well. Oh, it feels like sticky in my hair. Ooh. So that was all 4 pumps on that one half of my face. So that was the half that I applied with the angled foundation brush. I think it applied quite well with the brush, but I'm eager to see how different it will be with a damp beauty blender as well. My first impressions with the brush, so far I'd say it is quite a good coverage. It is medium to full, obviously you can build it. I wouldn't probably want to go more than 2 layers just because I feel like it might go a little bit cakey. It feels a little bit, tiny little bit tacky on the skin, but obviously it hasn't really set yet, so I will give it some time. This is what it looks like up close. You can see the difference in each side. Obviously I have quite a lot of redness on my face naturally, and a few blemishes as well. It does seem to cover them pretty well. I wouldn't say that it covers my under eye circles and darkness that well, but I will go in with a concealer and just see how it looks with that as well. I will just show you my forehead because I don't know if this bit here is like clung to dry patches. I don't normally suffer with dry skin, so I'm not sure what that is. So it's blended out quite well, and I am impressed with the colour match. I was a bit worried because obviously I just dropped the shade down from the one that she recommended me, and I was just hoping that it wasn't going to be too light, but it actually seems to work pretty well. I'm quite impressed so far. Now that it's starting to set on my face, it does feel a bit dry, but not in a drying way. That probably makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't feel sticky anymore. I'm just going to put a tiny amount onto the spot that I have at the bottom of my face, this one here, just to see if it will conceal that if I go in with another layer. Okay, going with another pump just to try and conceal the blemish at the bottom of my skin actually did work. So that is one half of my face applied with the foundation brush, and I'm going to apply the other half with a damp beauty blender. So I'm going to do the same thing again, and I'm going to apply the foundation onto the back of my hand. I'm going to do 2 pumps like I did the first time, and I'm just going to go in with a damp beauty blender. So that was the 2 pumps used on this lower half of my face. It's about the same whether you apply it with a brush or with a beauty blender. So I've applied another pump onto my hand just to finish my forehead. With the leftover product, I'm just going to apply a little bit more to my under eyes just to see if applying a bit more into that area does help to conceal a little bit more. That's all the product used. That was about 3 pumps. This side is 1 layer of the foundation with a beauty blender, and this side is 2 layers of the foundation with a foundation brush. I would say you get more of a full coverage with a damp beauty blender, which is what I was expecting it to be anyway, but I just thought I'd try it with both. It does apply really nicely with a foundation brush, but I think you would probably have to work with a little bit more product. I'm going to go in with a second layer on this side of the face just to be completely fair and even, and also to build the coverage a little bit more because I like to go for a full coverage, so this is medium but buildable. So I'm just going to apply another 1 pump. So far though, I am quite impressed with this foundation. I'm really happy with the colour match. I was so worried about that, but actually it looks really nice. It's making my skin look glowy and radiant. I'm not sure if that's the foundation alone or if that's the foundation with the primer as well. Obviously they are from the same brand, they are both Smashbox, so they probably do work really well together. That's all the product used, so I'm just going to apply 1 more pump directly onto the beauty blender just to apply it to my forehead. So this is how it looks with 2 applications on each side. So I did build the coverage from medium to more full, which is how I prefer it to look. This side I applied with the angled foundation brush, and this side I applied with the damp beauty blender. So I'm just going to show you up close what this side looks like now. The consistency is quite runny when you first apply it onto the back of your hand, so you have to work fairly quickly with the product, but I think that it applies really well to the skin. With both a foundation brush or a beauty blender, I think it's completely up to you. If I was to choose one or the other, I would probably go with a damp beauty blender just because that is my favourite way of applying foundation, and I feel like you might get a little bit more coverage with slightly less product as well. I used about 2 pumps on each side of my face. I did use a third one just to help conceal one of the spots I have down here. It feels quite lightweight and soft on the skin now that it's applied and it's sort of dried into my skin. It does feel very natural, looks very flawless, and it feels a tiny bit tight just here. Like when I smile or when I move my mouth, it does feel a little bit tight here, but nothing uncomfortable, just feels like I've got something there. I'm guessing that's down to the formula of the foundation, but we'll see if that does help with the oil control, because that is where I get oily, so we will see if that actually makes any difference, and maybe that is why it feels that way. I'm not sure. So now that I have applied all the foundation onto my skin, I'm going to finish the rest of my makeup off camera and I will come back in just a second. Okay, so I've just finished the rest of my makeup. I'm quite impressed with how everything else applied on top. It still looks quite flawless. The only thing I would say is that at the top of my forehead, I don't know how well you can see this, on the side that I applied the foundation with a brush, just here, it has started to go a little bit cakey already. But this side, where I applied it with the Beauty Blender, it hasn't done that. So I will show you up close how it looks now that I've done the rest of my makeup. There is a slight bit of redness on this area here. I probably could have gone in with a little bit more foundation just to cover that, but I didn't really want it to get too cakey. But here, it has started to sink into those fine lines a little bit. So that's something to bear in mind. I will see if it gets worse or if that's just how it is, and I will keep you guys updated on that. When I wear foundation, it usually wears off the chin first and around the nose area, so I will keep an eye on both of those. I did also spritz a tiny bit of the primer back onto my face afterwards, just to get rid of that sort of powdery feel, which is what I do with any other makeup and any other foundation. So to give it a real fair test, I decided to do everything as I normally would, but just using a different foundation. So we'll see if that makes any difference as well. I mean, so far so good. I am impressed. From afar, when I'm looking in the mirror or even in the camera, it does look quite flawless. Up close you can see a little bit more texture on my face, but I mean that's probably more down to my skin and my face rather than the products. Since I sprayed the primer water onto my face after I finished my makeup, the tightness that I had when I first applied the foundation has been reduced and it feels a lot more natural. I'm over exaggerating everything. So I applied the foundation at 2 o'clock this afternoon and it is now 3:01. So I will check in with you guys in a few hours just to see how well the makeup is lasting. Hey guys, I just thought I'd give you an update on the foundation so far. So it's currently 10 to 8 in the evening. So it's been on for almost 6 hours. I was going to check in with you sooner and give you an update like a couple of hours ago, but I hadn't actually seen much of a change. So I just thought I'd leave it a couple more hours just to see if there's any more of a change to make it worth telling you guys. And this is what it looks like now. The only part of my makeup that I've touched up since applying it this afternoon is my lipstick, and that's only because I've had something to eat and drink since filming and it came off, so just thought I'd redo that. So far it doesn't really look that much different from when I first applied it this afternoon. Where I said earlier that it's kind of sunk into my fine lines here, like my smile lines around my mouth, it looks pretty much exactly the same as it did earlier, so it hasn't really changed at all. The only thing I would say is I am starting to get a tiny bit oily in the areas I would normally get oily, so just on my T-zone, around my nose and my chin. I knew I would get oily, but this level of oiliness is like 10 minutes after applying my foundation that I used before this. When you compare the two, this one is so much better. I have found that this foundation has actually controlled a lot of the oil in my face. I definitely am not as oily as I normally am, especially after this amount of hours as well. I actually look like I have a nice, dewy, natural glow to my skin, and I think that's probably down to the hydration in this foundation. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I will check in with you guys again before I take all my makeup off this evening and before I go to bed, but I just thought I'd give you an update on 6 hours after applying, and I'm really impressed so far. Okay, so it is now almost 12:30 at night, or midnight, I don't know the right way of saying that, but it's late. So I've had this foundation on now for 10.5 hours, and I have to say I am so impressed with it. It has lasted so well throughout the day. I haven't touched up any of my makeup other than my lipstick, but looking at the rest of my face, I am honestly so impressed. It hasn't settled into my smile lines or my fine lines around my mouth any more than it had when I initially put it on, so that is really good. I would say that my skin is starting to get a little bit oily in the areas that I tend to get oily quite often, so that's my chin, around my nose and my forehead. The way my skin looks now after 10.5 hours of wearing this foundation is about the same as maybe an hour of any other foundation that I've tried. in terms of the oiliness. The only bit I would say is it's maybe starting to come off my chin a little bit, but it's not really that noticeable. I'm just being quite picky. I will just show you what it looks like a little bit closer. I am starting to get a little bit oily around my nose area. My chin starting to show a little bit of oil, as is my forehead, but nothing really dramatic. Like, that is normal for me after about an hour of wearing most other foundations, and it's nothing that can't be fixed with a bit of powder. But to be honest, I actually quite like how this looks. So other than where it's starting to come off my chin a tiny amount, the rest of the skin looks absolutely fine. Like, it doesn't look like it's budged at all. So that is amazing. This foundation has definitely lived up to its claims where it says that it helps to control oil throughout the day. I definitely see an improvement in that with my skin. I honestly can't believe how good my skin looks considering this has been on for 10.5 hours without any touch-ups. Like, that's crazy. I'd say that this foundation has worn really well on my skin. Like, I'm just so impressed with it. It hasn't really separated on my skin either, which is fantastic. I cannot believe how well it's lasted on my face as well. It's just incredible. So now that it's been on for 10.5 hours, I'm just gonna see what it's like when I touch my skin. So just touching my skin, like on my cheeks, it feels dry. It does not feel oily, but it doesn't feel like I'm touching makeup. It just feels like I'm touching my skin. And no, it doesn't really transfer either, which is one of the other claims that it has. So comparing the two sides, this was the side that I applied with a angled foundation brush, and this was the side that I applied with a beauty blender. In terms of longevity and the finish, I wouldn't say there's a lot in it, to be perfectly honest. I'd say it's probably more up to you and how you prefer to apply your foundation. When I first applied it this afternoon, this side I applied with a foundation brush and it did look a little bit cakey. Just up here. That hasn't really changed. It looks pretty much the same as it did when I first put it on. Although I haven't left this on for the full 15 hours, I'm sure it would look pretty much as it is now, to be honest, considering it hasn't really changed all day. So I would say that it probably does live up to its 15-hour wear claim. Overall, I am so impressed with this foundation. I cannot believe I only heard about it last week, but I am really happy with it so far. I got this from Boots for £29, so it is quite an expensive foundation. It's more high-end. I would say if you have the money and you're looking to invest in a new foundation that's going to work for you, especially if you have oily skin like I do, I would definitely recommend trying the Smashbox Studio Skin foundation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried this foundation or if you'd ever like to try it, or let me know what your absolute favourite foundation is. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video.